third year strength is 264, and the number of students who are attending the class is 108. So what do you mean by this? See, if the attendance is 50%, obviously the result will also be 50%. It can't be more than that. Please try to understand. You may not, you may get some sort of what we say a discount because of this pandemic. Probably you may get some benefit, like your exams maybe mostly they will be in online mode. Maybe to some extent it will be conducted liberally by the university. Maybe. But friends, at the end of the day, after your BTech, you are supposed to work. And if you don't learn the concepts properly, right, after 2 years, definitely you are going to suffer. Right? I don't believe in forcing things to happen. I know how to force, right? Today there are 112 students right now, right? I can make it 200 within no time. I can even use that method. I know how to force things to happen, but that is of no use. I don't believe in that. At the max, to the possible extent, I will try to motivate you. I'll try to tell you the importance of attending classes. Beyond that, what I can do? If you want me to force the things, then even I can do that. But please think, you are not small kids, right? I can't force you people to attend the class. You should have that zeal, right? That too, when you are learning some important subjects in this semester, each and every subject in this semester is very, very important, especially from your career point of view. And if you don't attend, see, maybe as of now, there is no strict restriction of attendance by the university. But whenever university asks for attendance, we will submit the same attendance which we are getting now. Suppose today 114 students are present, it will be 114 only. So I don't know when the university will impose that rule of minimum attendance 65%, like that. I don't know. And one day, if university forces, like university says minimum attendance should be put up by the student, on that day definitely you will suffer. On that day definitely you will suffer. So please don't take any chance, don't take any risk, and don't expect any kind of what we say support from us in wrong direction. So you don't attend classes, you have attendance issue, and still we supposed to help you. That will not happen from my side. I am very, very clear in that, right? So putting minimum attendance of 75% is mandatory, right? And second, and not second, but it is the most important thing. Rather than putting up attendance, it is very important that you attend classes so that you understand the concepts. If you don't understand the concepts, what can we do, right? How you will write exams, what you will write in exam, and even if you pass the exam also, what is the use of that certificate without knowledge? You may get 70%, 80%, but at the end of the day, remember, in your office you are supposed to write code. Whatever may be the technology you are working in, if you are not if you are not writing 2 to 300 lines of code every day, then your work will not be completed. On an average, every software engineer, right, is supposed to write somewhere around 200 lines of code minimum every day. Friends, I worked in industry. With that experience, I am telling, it's not easy. In the software industry, in the IT industry, the salaries are very, very good. They are very, very interesting, appealing salaries. Pay packages are so beautiful. But please understand the basic fundamental point, right? Nobody will pay you a decent amount of salary if you cannot work, if you cannot contribute, right? So it is very, very tough, my dear students. It's very tough out there in the industry, right? Lakhs of people are coming for IT jobs, whether they are from computer science background or not, just by taking up some courses in these advanced core technologies like artificial intelligence, data science. People from other backgrounds are also coming into this IT sector. So it's a very tough competition outside. And if you want to sustain, right? And if at all, apart from job, if you have an idea of going for higher education also, if you don't have good basics, you will not get a seat in a good university. And even after getting a seat also, completing MS program is not that easy. If at all you have any friends or relatives who are doing MS, ask them, see their assignments. You will understand how difficult they are. Assignments in our university, in our college, it's a different thing. Assignment means we give some questions, you write the answer, submit it. But in MS, assignments are not like that. Every assignment is a project. Every assignment is a project. So you are supposed to complete that assignment, and you are not even supposed to copy anything from the internet. There will be a plagiarism check. Plagiarism check means your professor will use a tool to check what you have copied from the internet, how much you have copied from the internet, right? So if your plagiarism report is somewhere about 10% or 20%, your assignment will be straight away rejected. So whether you go to MS or whether you go for a job, in any case, it is very, very difficult if you are not technically strong. Got the point? So friends, please try to understand the importance of classwork, right? It's not easy out there for the faculties also, uh, because of this pandemic, we are not in a position to conduct classes offline, right? Now delivering lectures online in these online platforms, it is relatively not so comfortable for any teacher who got habituated for this offline mode, right? But still we are trying our level best to accommodate the best possible teachers, to provide you the best possible faculty, right? Our intention, especially since March 8th, when I have taken charge, right, my intention is very, very simple: to provide quality education to the students, right? The other day also I have arranged an important session for you, right? From an industry expert. The CEO of a company spent around 2 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours, in delivering a session for second years as well as third years, right? But unfortunately, yesterday also the number of students attending the session was very, very less. Friends, it's not easy. People will not come to us. Why a CEO of a company should come and address you, right? And every time it will not be a free service. We will pay them, right? Many times we will pay huge amounts to the resource person for delivering such lectures or webinars. Again, yesterday the number of students attending the afternoon session on career opportunities and latest technologies, the strength was very, very, very poor strength. So what shall we do? What shall we do? Please tell. If this kind of response is there in future, I will not take the pain of organizing any such webinars. Frankly speaking, right? I need to talk to these people. I need to talk to 3 to 4 people. I need to convince them. I need to spend some 1 week of time in identifying some good resources, taking permissions, right? Getting approvals from the management. Lot of things we do, lot of homework is done in order to present a very good webinar for you. And if you are not interested and if you don't attend, you are giving me a chance. In future I'll not organize anything, and if someone says why are you not organizing anything, then I can say my students are not interested. I never find a good response, so I'll not arrange. Please think where we are going. Yesterday also I felt very, very bad, both second years as well as third years. Number of students who have attended was very, very less. But the students who have attended, I spoke to second year students yesterday in the afternoon session. Their session was from 1 to 2. Very few people attended, but those who have attended, they gave me a very, very good response, very good feedback. Even the faculty who have attended, they told it was a really good session, sir. We got an awareness on what is happening in the industry. Without this knowledge, if you want to go out, then nobody can help you, friends. I'm telling you once again, if you want the degree, if you want only a BTech degree, then attending classes is not at all required. Maybe one day before whatever you do, one day batting, maybe that is enough to pass the subject. But I'll tell you, you will be not in a position to say that you have done BTech also. After your BTech, you will hide that fact that you have done BTech. Because if you complete your BTech, you have a degree, but if you don't have a proper job in your hand, or if you don't get a good seat in your MS course, then on that day definitely you will realize this fact. Today if you don't understand, right, definitely after 2 years you will realize what I have told you today. If you understand the importance of my advice today, definitely you will not be landing into some problems after 2 years. I tell you, irrespective of your background, whether you are financially strong or whether you are financially weak, don't think that I am very rich, I don't have any problem. No matter, maybe you are financially very, very strong. But even after your BTech, maybe you have a lot of money, maybe some family business is there, maybe you look into that business activities. But definitely one point will be pinching you, that is you have completed your BTech. People will ask, "Arey, you have done your BTech and now you are looking after your family business. Why you have done BTech?" Right? So please keep this point in mind. You are doing a professional course, right? You have to exhibit professional behavior. You have to spend a lot of time in learning these latest technologies. It's not that easy, right? And you have to attend all classes. Otherwise, you will not understand concepts. It's very tough out there, especially these modern courses. And if you don't understand the concepts, maybe you can clear the exam by writing something, blah, 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 in your university exam. Openly on record, I'm speaking, right? We all know the kind of JNTU exam which we are writing, right? So maybe some theory questions, you write something, and getting pass marks is not a great deal. But getting the knowledge, understanding the concepts, ability to apply the concepts is very important. And if you don't go to that level, right, I'm sorry to say, after 2 years you are going to see a very, very, very tough situation, right? And now it is up to you whether you want to face the tough challenges after 2 years, or whether you want to settle down in a comfortable position. It is up to you, friends, right? So fine, let me come back to our topic. So yesterday we were discussing one important concept called as design issues of a learning system. As I told you, this is one of the expected question from unit 1, especially in mid exam I will ask this question, right? So design issues of a learning system. This is one important topic which we were discussing yesterday. Another small topic is perspectives and issues in machine learning. Friends, if you see the syllabus, if you look at the syllabus, I'll just show you the syllabus. We are still here only, right? Introduction. So first we have spent a lot of time on introduction. What is ML? How ML came into existence? Then we have defined machine learning. Then we have seen what do you mean by a well posed learning problem. We have seen 3 to 4 examples: house price prediction problem, autonomous car, driverless car, and checkers game, etc., etc., right? So then comes the design issues of a learning system. Means designing a learning system means what are the important attributes we should consider while designing a machine learning model. So this is a very fundamental concept, friends. So in future, whatever we are going to study under machine learning, right? So all those machine learning models, they are supposed to follow, or they are supposed to consider these design issues which we are discussing, which was our present topic, right? So next one is perspectives and issues in the machine learning, right? So see here, the speed at which I am teaching, I think it's very, very slow, because it's an important subject. I am not worried about the time. Suppose maybe it has started late. Suppose by the time of mid exam, if I can complete only one unit or 1.5 unit, I will conduct mid exam in only one and a half unit only. So you need not worry, right? My intention is not to complete 2.5 units, because for mid I should conduct for 2.5 units. Then all of the sudden I'll complete 2.5 units. That is not my intention, and that is not the correct way of dealing with the subject also. So we will be going at a very, very slow pace, but the idea is very simple. We need to understand each and every concept, and once the concepts are clear, right, over a period of time, slowly if required, we can increase the pace also. But we are not in a hurry. That is what I am trying to say, right? So how much syllabus is completed by the time of mid one? Only that much syllabus will be considered for your first mid examination, and you need not worry for that. So and in ML classes will be conducted continuously, right? So that the syllabus should be completed in time without any disturbance or without any problem. So this is what is the topic we were discussing: designing a learning system, then perspectives and issues in machine learning. So coming back to this one, coming back to this design issues topic, right? So if you remember, in the last class, we were discussing each and every point, and we have discussed up to alternative target function or evaluation function, right? Now, choosing a function approximation algorithm is the next step. So a quick recap of what we have discussed in the last class: type of training experience, right? If you remember, for every design issue, I gave you an example. So type of training experience means the training data which we are getting, whether it is correct or not. If our heights and weights example, if you take up, if those values are incorrect, then the machine learning model, which is constructed using incorrect data, will also work incorrectly, right? It will not be a perfect machine learning model. So if heights and weights data which I have given to my machine learning model, if it is not correct, so my model will learn something which is wrong. And obviously performance of my machine learning model will also be absolutely wrong, right? So what type of training experience you are giving is very important. Then the degree to which the learner controls the sequence of training examples, means whatever training data we are getting, like heights and weights, or maybe if it is a chess game, right, what is the current state of the game, what is the next move, right? And for next move, what are the possible options? So like that, from where you get this knowledge, from which source you are getting this knowledge, and that represents the degree of control, right? Suppose if you remember, we discussed about direct and indirect learning, direct and indirect feedback. Means suppose I get training data only by experience, means my machine learning model will play the game against itself. You play the game with yourself, and you learn over a period of time by experience. That is called as direct. Or if you take indirect, indirect means I will get the data of the games which were played by people, like Vishwanathan Anand and someone else played the game, and Vishwanathan Anand won the game. So I'll try to get the data from that game, right? What was the Vishwanathan Anand's first move, second move, third move, till the last move? I try to get that information. So like that, to what extent you have control on your training data is also very, very important, right? And third point, how well the training experience is distributed over the final system performance, over which final system performance must be measured. If you remember, I gave you another very good example. It talks about distribution of your training data. Suppose I want to develop a machine learning model, it will do house price prediction for you. Means you will select the area. Suppose I want an house in KPHB, and it should be a 2 BHK, and it should be near to metro station. Like that, I will give some choices, and if I click on search button, my program should tell me what is the range of a house price, right? With all these features which I am expecting in KPHB, what could be the estimated price? Like that, if I develop a house price prediction model, now we talk about distribution. Distribution means in my training data, if I have 10,000 records, right, and all these 10,000 records are collected from Hyderabad only, and if I want to test this house price prediction model, right, on some other city, suppose I want to buy a house in Nizamabad, and I'll give some parameters like it should be 2 BHK, it should have a railway station near to me, I should have a shopping complex near to me. Like that, I give some data, and I would like to expect, I want my machine learning model to accurately predict what could be the price. Then obviously my model will fail, or it may give an incorrect result to me. The reason is very, very simple. The training was done on Hyderabad data, completely all 10,000 records are from Hyderabad, and testing you are doing on something else. So that is called as improper distribution, friends. So how well the data was distributed, that is important. Means I should have 1,000 records from Hyderabad, 1,000 from Nizamabad, 1,000 from Karimnagar, maybe 500 from Secunderabad. Like that, it should have data from all possible sources, right? So that was third point. Fourth point, choose the target function and representation for the target function. Choose the target function means, as I told you, for every machine learning model, we will have a mathematical function. For example, y is equal to mx plus c will be applied for our heights and weights example. Height is an independent variable, weight is dependent variable. So if I want to predict the weight based on the height, I need to train my machine learning model by giving some 100,000 or 10,000 heights and weights combinations. That data of two columns, height, weight, should be given as training or knowledge to my model. So in such machine learning model, we use y equal to mx plus c kind of function, right? And this x part, now this m is nothing but the height parameter, y will be the weight parameter. So if I know height as well as weight for 100 combinations, in all those 100 combinations, what is the value of x, I can understand. Means I can study the slope, y equal to mx plus c. I can study the slope. So friends, when I study the slope means it will talk about the variation, right? When I make some changes in height, how much change I can see in weight. That proportionate change can be studied from slope. So once I understand the relationship between height and weight, how much relative change there should be in the weight when I change the value of height. So whenever we change the value of height, how much change should be there in the weight, that understanding I'll get if I study this slope. So while we train the machine learning model, we try to understand the slope. And once we understood the slope, then what we will do is our model can predict. So I understood what is x, then you tell me what is the height. Height means m. X I already know. Now c is a constant, additive constant, right? Now y equal to mx. So whenever you give certain height value, since I know the relationship between height and weight, that relationship is expressed using x value. Now for a given height, I know the X value, I can find the value of Y. I can predict the weight for a given height value. So friends, definitely not just Y equal to mx plus C, for every uh, what we say for every machine learning model, there will be a target function. Generally it is represented with V. The target function is represented using a symbol V, right? Now during this alternate to target function is evaluation function, which gives a numerical value to each state, So what do you mean by alternate to target function? Means every time I may not be knowing this target function. In heights and weights example, I was able to write y equal to mx plus c, but it will not be so simple every time. In some cases, we try to evaluate the function, means we don't even know what is the function. We try to construct a new function. We try to construct a new function by observing the training data or by observing the sample data. So alternate to target function is an evaluation function which gives a numerical value to each state, This is also an important point. Now choosing a function approximation algorithm. What do you mean by this? Generally, it is represented as V dash. So the relationship between V and V dash, I will try to explain you. Choosing a function approximation algorithm, which is represented as V dash, means we try to generalize this function. Suppose I'll write like this. Somewhere here I'll write. Right. For example, V is my target function. Now, what is the model I want to construct? Let us say movie recommendation system, the example which we have discussed in our previous class, right? What I'll do is I have some parameters. X1 is one parameter, X2 is one parameter, X3 is another parameter, right? So, what I will do is X1, X2, X3, I don't know all these things. Target function says if the value of this target function is 1, I'll go to movie. If it is 0, I will not go to movie. In this example, the possible outcomes of V are only 2, but sometimes it can be more than 2 also. For example, if it is a game, I will generally get 3 options. One is what we say, if 2 people are playing the game, Mr. A has won the game, right? That is one output. A has lost the game, another output. There was a draw in the game was drawn, nobody has won. So one won the game, lost the game, or game drawn. Like that, you may get 3 options also. So what is a target function? We write a target function like this. V is equal to 1, means I'm saying if V is 1, I'll go to movie. If V is 0, I'll not go to movie. But how do I construct? From where do I get this 1 and 0? Further, there should be a representation. That representation is V dash. And it should be written like this. V dash, I'm giving an example, friends. So one is X1, X2. Suppose X1, X2, X3 are parameters, right? X1 means who is the director, X2 means who is the hero in the movie, X3 means which genre it is, like that. Now X3, for every parameter we will assign some weight, means importance of every parameter need not be same. So maybe director of the movie, let us say I want to give certain weightage to it. So I call it as W1. 0 W2, weightage to that second parameter, weightage to third parameter, right? Now friends, I'll add something called as W0, right? So please try to understand W3, this is X, this is X, this is not into symbol, it is understood, W1 into X1, W2 into X2, W3 into X3. So this is the difference between V and V dash. So in target function, we are talking about possible outcomes. V mean if the outcome of V is 1, I'll go to movie. If it is 0, I'll not go to movie, like that. But how do I arrive? How do I conclude, or how do I compute the value of V? What is the what we say representation for this target function, right? So this is V dash, choosing a function approximation algorithm, and this W. So here this x1, x2, x3, they are called as, they are parameters. They are parameters. And W0, W1, etc., they are weights. Right? This is very, very important point, friends. Right? It's a doubt which you should get. Sir, okay, there are three parameters accepted. There are three parameters accepted, right? X3, X2, X1. Now for every parameter you are assigning a weight. So weight will be multiplied with that parameter. W1 into X1, right? W1 into X1, W2, X2, W3, X3 accepted. But why W0? What is this W0? This W0 is called as, remember, this is very important. W0 is called as bias. This is an important word, my dear friends. Our second unit is artificial neural networks, which is a very, very important subject. It is not just a unit, that itself is one separate subject. And for artificial neural networks, whatever we are studying in unit 1, each and every point will be very much useful in unit 2. So this W0 is called as bias, right? W0 is called as bias. So what bias will do? It will provide additive constant. It will provide additive constant to the function. What do you mean by additive constant? Why this initial bias is needed? Why this initial bias is needed? Bias will provide additive constant. This W0 is called as bias. W0 is called as bias. W0 is bias, and it is very, very important. And for every problem, for every machine learning model, we will see the initial bias. Even in y equal to mx plus c, which is a very old mathematical function to solve equation of a line, right? Y equal to mx plus c, that c is a constant, right? Y equal to mx plus c, that c is very, very important. That c will ensure, that this additive constant is added to that y equal to mx plus c. Means when we are studying the relationship between x and y, right? When we are studying the relationship between x and y, what this c will do is, when I add something y equal to mx plus c, let me uh, explain you the importance of bias. Y is equal to mx plus c. So friends, just imagine if m is 0, if m is 0, what will be the value of y? If m is 0, what will be the value of y? If there is no constant, if there is no constant, let us assume it is just y equal to mx. Please observe this carefully. I am trying to explain you the importance of W naught, because in entire subject, entire artificial neural networks, we will talk about weights, and W naught is by default added. So what is W naught and how, what value of W naught will be added? It varies from problem to problem. But what is W naught? Let us try to understand. So I'll take the example of y equal to mx plus c. That c is the W naught kind of thing in that equation. It provides you, or it gives you, additive constant. Why this additive constant is important? Suppose if this plus c is not there, what is left out? Y equal to mx. Now, what is the purpose of study? We are trying to understand that whenever I make some changes in one variable, how much change is coming in another variable? That is important, right? So definitely we want some kind of change in the output. Suppose if this m, due to some reason, if this mx gave me 0, then y will become 0. Y will become 0 means then there is no change. It should not happen. Definitely there should be some variation, because we are trying to study the rate of change. If I change variable 1, if there is change in variable 2, then how much change is there? That is what we are trying to study. So for that purpose, what we will do is we will add a small additive constant. We will add a small additive constant. So that is the importance of C, which is nothing but W naught here. I'll give you another example also. Suppose if you check your weight in a weighing machine, let us say it is showing 77.5. Right, suppose you are in a shopping mall and you are trying to check if there was a weighing machine, and you have checked your weight as 77.5. You found it 77.5, and what happened is immediately in the next building or in the next shop, again you found one more weighing machine, and you wanted to check your weight there also, and you found it is showing as maybe 78.5, 1 kg difference. So what you will do, friends, if someone is asking what is your weight, generally what we will do, we will say somewhere around 78. Got the point? So what we are trying to do, 77.5 and 78.5, when I find two different values, I don't know which one is correct, and I don't even know, right, what is the error, whether 77.5 itself is correct or 78.5 itself is correct. I don't know. But one thing I know, that my weight should be somewhere between 77.5 and 78.5. So what I try to do is, if I say that my weight is 77.5, just imagine originally my weight is 78.5. Then what is the difference? I am almost telling a wrong value with a difference of 1000 grams. If it is 78.5 originally, but I told it 77.5, difference is 1000 grams. Similarly, if it is originally 77.5 and if I tell you that it is 78.5, again I am making an error of 1000 grams. So in such cases, what I will do, if I found my weight as 77.5 in one machine, 78.5 in another machine, and after that if you ask me, sir, what is your weight, what I will do, I'll try to give a value which is almost close to the original value, or I'll try to give a value which can minimize the error. So I will not tell 77.5, I will not tell 78.5 also. Rather, I'll tell something like this: my weight is somewhere around 78. So what I am doing, I am either adding or removing some value so that I can minimize the error. So that I can minimize the error. So that addition or subtraction, whatever is happening, is very important, and it is called as bias. That's the reason in such an old equation of line y equal to mx plus c, that c was used. Similar to y equal to mx plus c, that c which the c which was playing the role of additive constant, here also in v dash it is providing, w naught is providing me the initial bias, right? So please try to understand, friends, whenever I am designing a machine learning model, I should choose the target function. These are fundamentals. In future, I will be using the word v dash, v dash like that. You should not confuse at that time, right? That's the reason I'm spending a lot of time in my first unit. I'm very slow. Fine. So what is v? Target function. What target function will tell? It will tell about possible outcomes only. But what exactly is the representation of target function? That is given by v dash, right? In my movie recommendation system, I will write something like this. So w1, w2, w3 are weightages, x1, x2, x3 are parameters, right? Right, I can even apply this to v naught. I can even apply this to the selection criteria. For example, x1, x2, x3 represents your performance in three different areas. One is your academics, another one is your sports, another one is something else. And suppose I am doing some recruitment. Now I can give certain weightage to your academics, right? Certain amount of weightage to your performance in sports, and certain amount of weightage in your written test. Like that, x1, w1, w2, w3 values may change, right? So when we have multiple parameters, every parameter will not have equal importance. Parameter to parameter importance may change. That's the reason the importance for every parameter is represented as weight, which is W1 for X1, W2 for X2, W3 for X3. Right? One second. I'll just download documents. Till this point, any doubts? Till this point, any doubt? Target function, representation of target function. These are two important points. My screen is visible, no? I have already shared it here. It is showing me. Someone says it's not visible. Five not two. My screen is not visible. Yes, sir, visible. Okay, thank you. Fine. So till this point, any doubts? If it says no, that's great. Please respond, my dear students. Yeah, that's great. So we will move on. We will move on. So V and V dash. Now another two important points are there. Estimating the training values, the next design point. So choosing V dash, how do I construct V dash? We have seen example for movie recommendation system. Now estimating the training values means how do I compute, how do I get these training values? If you take height and weight example, if you try to recollect that example, I told you one thing, that these heights and weights I got it from a doctor. So I got it easily. I got it from a doctor. Sir, if height is 4 feet, what should be the weight? Someone told me, I got it. But friends, every time I may not get this training data so easily. I may not get this training data so easily. So how do you estimate training values? That is also an important design issue. I'll tell you why it is so difficult. I'll tell you why it is so difficult. Suppose you want to develop a machine learning model which can play a chess game, right? And obviously you want your machine learning model to play the chess game beautifully, and it should win every time, right? Based on the number of wins, you calculate the performance. So how do you teach your computer program, or how do you teach your machine learning model how to play chess and how to play chess optimistically? Means it should play like Vishwanathan Anand. So you have to train the program, right? How do you train? You have to get the training data. So teaching a program how to play chess is not that easy, right? So if you want to find the weight of a person for a given height, that is easy because existing height weights data is readily available. Like this data is readily available. So estimating training values is very simple. You went to a doctor, got the values of 10 or 20 combinations. But for chess game it is not so simple. If suppose if it is a chess game, what should I do? If it is a chess game, see how many difficulties I have. For example, let us say this is start and this is end. Now between start and end, between start and end, just imagine between start and end, let us say Vishwanathan Anand has played a game and he has played a game against some X, and that X has lost the game. Vishwanathan Anand has won the game. Now let us say in this game 34 moves were made. 34 moves were made by player. This is one example. This is example 1. Suppose in example 2, in example 2, 60 moves were made by the player. Like that, I have to train my machine learning model, right? Only if I train my machine learning model with only one example, can it learn chess game? Can it play a very optimistic chess game? Can it play a chess game perfectly if I give only one example? Coming back to the window, yeah. Now I want you people to tell me, suppose if it is a chess game, suppose we will wind up in another 1 minute. Suppose if it is a chess game, right? If I give only one case study, if I give only one example, is it sufficient? Please tell me. Is it sufficient? Is it sufficient if I train only with one example? It's not sufficient, right? In one game it was 34 moves, in another game it was 60 moves. And one more thing, friends, suppose if a person has lost the game, it doesn't mean that all moves made by that loser are very bad moves. Maybe suppose I have lost the game only because of last two steps which I have made a mistake. Suppose in the entire game I made 60 moves, and out of 60 moves 57 to 58 moves were really good. Maybe in the last one or two steps I have done a blunder. So can I say if someone has lost the game, I can't learn anything from those moves made by the loser? Is it correct? Even from the loser I can learn something, because even loser might have made some good moves, right? Even loser might have made some good moves. So how many training samples I need to observe, right? So that is one difficulty. So estimating training values is not easy, right? Especially if it is a chess game or checkers game, estimating training values is very difficult. So how do you do that? That is an important attribute. Then adjusting the weights, LMS weight update rule. LMS means least mean square error. I'll tell you, I'll come back to that. So once the training values are there, you need to adjust this W1, W2, W3, the weights, so that our machine learning model can improve. So once the model is ready, improving or refining the performance of the model is done by making changes in the weights. So adjusting the weights is also an important design issue. So these are the 8 important steps, my dear friends, designing a learning system, right? So you have another class, right? Fine. So no problem. In the next class, we will talk about this one, right? And one more thing before wind up, before we wind up, design issues in a learning system. On this, we will discuss one case study. We will take one example. All these 8 points we will discuss. We will take an example and we'll discuss all 8 points, because it can become an essay type question. People may ask you for essay type 12 marks question, explain these steps in designing a learning system with an example. So simply writing 8 points is not enough. We will apply these 8 points, we will take up a case study and we'll try to understand these 8 points in detail again with an example. So friends, I thought of discussing perspectives and issues in machine learning today, but somehow it was not possible. In the next class, we will see that in tomorrow's class. And before we wind up, quickly tell me whether you understood today's concepts or not. You are following me or not. Please let me know immediately. Please respond, my dear friends.